There is power in personal stories. It connects us, it empowers us, and it holds us accountable. It creates understanding and expands our perspective. This is Big in the Community with Jonathan James at the Kalamazoo Promise, a podcast aimed to highlight local leaders, collaborators, and innovators in the greater Kalamazoo community. All right, we are back with another episode of Big in the Community. I'm not sure which episode it is, so I'm not going to bother saying it because it's just embarrassing when I go back and actually listen to it. So I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to start us off with a quote. Just kidding. Our community relations intern, Romari Phillips, will do the quote.
Thank you. So the quote of the day is, "A man's mind stretched by new ideas may never return to its original dimensions," and that's by Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr.
That's deep.
Very.
Did it speak to you?
I'm still trying to think about it.
It seems like your mind is expanding.
Definitely, like as we speak.
Just from the quote. I love it.
I'm thinking deeper now.
I know. Well, speaking of, deeper thinking, learning new things, education, we have an amazing guest with us today, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hello. My name is Lanisha Hannah, and I am currently the very proud principal of Washington Writers Academy here in Kalamazoo. Yeah, woo woo! Shout out to the Stingers.
Oh.
Hey, to the Hive. I am the Queen Bee.
Okay. All right. So how long have you been in your current role, and how long have you been in Kalamazoo?
So my, current role as the principal of Washington.
Yeah.
So this is year 10.
Wow.
Yes. So
Congratulations.
Washington, thank you. So Washington has become home. It will forever go down in my history, in my life, because I have yet to serve a school and community this long in one place. So this is, I've completed 22 years in education and, building to building, district to district. I am originally from Saginaw, Michigan, so I was also an educator there. And so, 10 years in one school is a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, I would never have thought. And 12 years now, wow, in Kalamazoo. So,
what kept you here for that long?
Washington. What has kept me in Washington? Calling. Calling.
Okay. I like that answer.
Yes. I literally and figuratively was called to serve Washington. And immediately when I got there, I knew, okay, I know why I'm here. So coming to Kalamazoo, originally I was placed at Linden Grove Middle School. I was there for 2 years. Shout out to the Wildcats, Linden Grove, LG.
My son's there right now. So
okay, I have a son there as well, my baby boy. And so, I served there for 2 years, and I knew, I was done, and thought I was going to go to Hillside. I heard you say some things about Hillside on some previous shows.
That's where I went.
Shout out.
Cool.
Right? And so that's where, my thought was, I'm going to go over there. And so I was appointed or asked, why not elementary again? And I've been there, done that. And when I did some soul searching and some praying, I realized that I did not want to go back to elementary out of fear, in a sense, because it is, you have babies. And, of course, my first answer was, I don't want to do that kindergarten. They crying and nose running and tie my shoe. And but it was really that fear because you become so connected. You literally help raise children and become so much for them. And it is a different type of work. It's all in. It's whole child from 3-4 years old to 10, 11. So that's a long time. And then also some of the experiences that have shaped me along the way in my previous life in Saginaw with elementary and a K-8 there, some of the traumatic experiences and things. So I'm like, no, I don't want to go back to do that. And like I said, did some soul searching, some praying, and then I called up Dr. Rice, who was the superintendent at the time, our now state superintendent, and I said, I'll go wherever I'm needed. And he said, I need you to go there. Okay.
That's amazing. So what's your story and who are you growing up, your career, everything?
Everything? I don't think you have enough time. Will there be a part 2? So tell me the first part again of your question.
What's your story?
Ooh. My story.
What's your story?
My story begins in Saginaw, Michigan. I am the only female child. I have 3 brothers, and my parents met in Chicago. My dad moved to Chicago when he was 18 from Osceola, Arkansas. My mother was raised in Chicago from the time she was 3 years old. And so they met there, made their way to Saginaw. Of course, that's, General Motors is booming. And so I was born and raised in Saginaw, Michigan. Very proud people in Saginaw, Michigan. If you know anything about Saginaw, the first thing I heard when I moved here was, "Oh, she from Sag Nasty."
I was about to say that.
She from the nasty. And so, growing up, I spent, of course, a lot of, I grew up there, but I spent, summers in Chicago, summers down south, right? And all of those things and experiences have shaped me to be who I am today. I am one of those people who knew very early on what I was going to do. And, lining up teddy bears, right? And no, sit straight, sit straight, blue bear, whatever. I would read books to my bears, and I liked having words on the walls and all of that stuff. So that was the one thing that I would say that I'm very blessed as far as I knew that. I knew where I was going as far as my career path. And I think one of the hardest things in the who are you question is who are you, like deep down, overall, not like your role, not all of these different roles that you play. Because, of course, I'm a mother and I'm a grandmother. Oh, shout out to the goddess Athena. My granddaughter, she goes to Washington Writers Academy. She's the goddess and I'm the queen. And so, but it's like you have all of these different roles. And so that's the question, I think, of your personal life journey. And I think it's ever changing. So, but back to Saginaw, yes, I loved school. I loved everything about school. And at the same time, it was kind of, my mother would say I was bad, right? We were very much so, you go to church, we pray, we go to Bible study, all of these things, right? And at the same time, we just, I was who I was. So I am, you see my shirt, I am the storm, period. I will bring it. And so I was that child in school who would get, put out sometimes, and but also crafty. You could be really crafty back in the day. All you had to do was check the mail and erase the answering machine. And keep the 4.0. You good, right? You never know. Until you have a board level hearing, and then they have to come. So before you can get back in, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that that's what I was doing until I became an administrator. And I was like, oh, like I had a couple of these. Whoa. And so, there's that. I enjoyed school, loved school, knew what I was going to do. At the same time, there's, community, there's influences. And at 15, I was pregnant with my oldest. Shout out to my bold guardian, strong warrior. His name is Tavius. He's Athena's father. He is 31 years old now. So you can do that math. So I had him when I was 16. And then my journey shifted a bit because having brothers, I'm the sister that's also about that life. Okay. And so, but having him, and before having him even, like I was literally put out of high school. His dad was at the time number 2 in the country next to Kevin Garnett. And so, that posed, a problem for some people. And I was put out of my we'll call it my comprehensive high school. And then I went to Reuben Daniels Lifelong Learning Center. And fast forward some years, I became the teacher, coordinator, principal for the 6th through 8th grade self-contained all subjects alternative learning program. There, that was my last teaching classroom wise experience. But I had my son and graduated still top 10. Addressed the school board 7 months pregnant. Told them about their own policies and that I would be returning back to my high school. Oh yes, okay. That's me.
About that action.
Oh yes, yes. So, graduated from high school. Went on to I stayed in Saginaw for a year at my mother's request. Kept telling her like, no, I've been accepted to Eastern. I was accepted to Eastern in 10th grade. Like, no, I'm going. I'll stay 1 year. So my son and I, we moved out. I went to Saginaw Valley for a year, transferred to Eastern. There, had my oldest daughter. Shout out to Anaya Lachelle. Download the album, Anaya_Lachelle, on all streaming platforms. That is her Instagram. And so, had them in college. Had 2 kids by the time I graduated undergrad. And finished, went back home, served there. Teacher, principal there, elementary, a K-8 principal, and here I am in Kalamazoo.
Wow.
So is that the journey?
Yeah. I think you got it.
I mean, that sounded perfect. It's like I was listening to a book. I was just invested. I couldn't think of nothing else to say.
I know.
I'm starting it. It started.
Wow. That was a journey.
Oh, yes.
No, that's very.
Congratulations.
And that's thank you. And that's just a little bit. That's a little overview.
Yes,
because I can't get into some of the everything.
There could be a part 2 for that for sure.
Oh, I have no idea.
No, but thank you for sharing all that.
You're welcome.
I know, we have scholars who have similar things that have happened. Like even myself, like having a son while I was trying to go to school. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. But it sounds like it didn't bother you. Like you just got through it.
I'm going to tell you, it was pure ignorance in a sense, and being somewhat naive. Like I really didn't see the big deal. I literally had some of my teachers and my guidance counselor, like they came over to the house and they had a meeting. Like I'm coming in the house and I'm sitting like, why are they all in the living room talking to my mom? And so I walked through and I'm like, I don't know what you all are meeting about, but here's the thing. No one's adopting my baby. Nobody's doing this. Nobody's doing that. I'm pregnant. That's it. I'm going to have a baby and I'm going to go back to school. And so you all can adjourn this meeting. You know, like I didn't see why it was a big deal. Because I think some of the big deals that we have in our society, right, have been forced upon us based on societal norms that were created. But where I see it, men and women have been having children and babies and at whatever age since the beginning of time, right? And that will continue. And so how do we as a society, of course, educate? I'm not saying that it's the best thing to have it wasn't, the best thing in the world. But at the same time, it was, so journeys are individual.
Yeah, because that can be a stumbling block for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like they were worried, but really you were like, I got it.
I got this.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
When you got that goal, you was going to make it happen, no matter what.
Exactly. And so that to me becomes the overall question. How do we instill? Because my goal really started, it was innate. This is who I was created. I was created and educate. I was created to teach. I was created to serve. And so I knew that. And that is something that I feel that sometimes we lack, that we could do a lot better. That's an opportunity for growth as a community and as a society, is helping young people understand that, oh, that's what you like? Okay, do that. Because that's my thing, is whatever it is that you are interested in, whatever you would do for free, find a way to legally make money at it, right? Because money makes the world go round. You got to live. Find a way to legally make money and do that, because you won't get tired of it. You won't need to, it'll change, it'll progress over time, but that's the thing. So, and my service has continued. I am also on the board of directors for the Urban Alliance. They're doing some amazing things, and it's hard sometimes to sit at the table. Of course, I attend certain things, but it's like, man, I'm doing that, right? I can't just be in the office space. Yeah.
Well, that leads to the next question.
Okay.
Is how do you engage with the Kalamazoo community?
Oh.
How do you collaborate with others?
So with Washington, there were already some partnerships that I inherited. And then, so for instance, Western Michigan University, we have counselors on site. So their candidates for their doctoral candidates, they're on site. We have a group that are on site, and that's how the next step after Washington is you graduate with your doctorate in counseling, right? So, and shout out to Dr. Joseph Morris, who's also a graduate of Buena Vista High School. Shout out to those Knights. He's from Saginaw, Michigan. The first African-American professor in his field at Western. And so that partnership was created. That's been long-standing. There's so many partnerships, some of whom are now non-traditional or becoming more traditional. I'll say non-traditional from a historical perspective. So I have a strong partnership with the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety. And pretty much any and everything we do at Washington, they are a part of. Mentoring. We're going on, we have our all-school field trip every year. Love loading up those charter buses. We ride out of here in style, trust. And they are there waving us along, watching, of course, making sure we board safely. And then they're there when we return. All of our end-of-the-year celebrations, beginning of the year celebrations, just coming through, walking through, having lunch with kids, they're there. And so that's very different. Having a brother who is incarcerated in another state, having a brother who was, shot multiple times, and so, there's things that it's interesting how this has played out. that I have such a close relationship with, like cell phone on speed dial people. And that is interesting for me because they have in some ways changed my perspective and looking at people as individuals and not as this group. You know, so, you know, I get some slack from that sometime from some people, but that's what it is. But the development piece is just being open, welcoming. We have, you know, our literacy night is always like expo style, Kalamazoo Promise, you know, helping hands, prevention works, local business owners, rooted. You know, like there's, of course, Urban Alliance, shout out again. But there's, Kalamazoo is resource rich and yet and still so much is not accessible.
It's very siloed.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it's like that too. And even just now, like I've started my master's in public administration.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm doing like the fundamentals of public administration and just reading how government is meant to act and how it does and how it is, the perception of it is very different. So like first thing was unlearning myths about government. And it seems like, oh, the government should do this, but government isn't meant to control this. So it's kind of like we help, but not too much.
Yep.
But when you see that, it's like, well, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you? And I see that even in like nonprofits, it's like it's there, but it's not necessarily forced on anyone,
right?
Or advertised.
It's like the people who know about it.
Yeah, which is a problem, but it's kind of how it's meant to be, is that it's there, which is weird to me. Like looking from the outside, I'm like, everybody should know about this.
Systematic.
That too. Yep. But it's just interesting learning all the different perspectives. Like from their perspective, it's like, well, all that stuff's there. You just need to get to it.
Right.
But if I don't even know to look.
And the other barriers, right? So I had a conversation with someone about, you know, they're saying, I'm going to, you know, I help, you know, my people, you know, yet, you know, when I see certain people, you know, maybe on the street, like I'm not going to give them this, you know, $2. I'm not going to do this, that, or the third because they're Americans. And there's all this, you know, they were born with. Okay. And so, and I had to take it back. Like, okay, well, let's talk about when we were, you know, wartime. Okay. And what's the word I'm looking for? You know, not recruited, but
Drafted.
Okay. And so, not recruit, right? But that same issue exists with our veterans. There's still a lot of disconnect, right? Well, they could just go here. But guess what? If you were, you know, a descendant of a slave or a slave and you went to war and you come out, or just even in, you know, even more modern times, you go to war, you come out, you come home and your people aren't there or whatever. If you don't have an address, if you don't have ID, you don't have a phone number, if you don't have these certain elements, you can't get the help. Where are they sending the check to? Who are you? You don't have you don't have your Social Security card? Well, you're going to have to go get it. Well, you don't have an ID? You can't get your Social Security card. You don't have, right? You don't have a birth certificate?
We'll mail it to you.
We'll mail it to you.
That's that go-to.
Right.
You know how it can relate to now, too, is at PWIs. It's so many resources on campus that we don't know about. Like, I've talked to so many first-year students that are just like, wait, where is even admissions? They be like, who do I even talk to like, get my stuff? And it's just, like first year students crumble, especially when they're away from home. Like a lot of the students I know at Western come from either New York or the east side of the state, and they're like, bro, like I have no idea what to do. But it's like growing up Black, you don't want to be vulnerable. You want to act kind of like, like you be like, oh, I'm good. And we really not good. But like,
No.
So that's what you got. That's what I had to humble myself bad my first year. Cause it's like, there's people like you out there that want to help. But then there's people out there that's like, we run into the people that don't really want to help when we ask for help. So then it just shuts us down again. So
yeah,
it gets like that.
Yes. Yeah. You want to ask. You want to know. There's people that want to help, and then they may not know how to help you, or they don't know, what you need because you're not wanting to feel vulnerable and look like you don't know. When the thing is, you're really not supposed to know first year. Like there's things that you don't know what you don't know. Anything that you're doing that's new, you don't know what you don't know. So, I know we could definitely do a better job of that. But that was one of the things I noticed very quickly moving to Kalamazoo. One of the differences is like, to me, Kalamazoo was like so halves, not. Mm-hmm. It was like there's all this money. There's this promise, and there's, Derek Jeter, and, got all of this. Mm-hmm. But then you've got this. Then I learned about it being somewhat considered the Mecca of the Midwest for the homeless. Mm-hmm. And that is by creation, by design almost. Mm-hmm. You got Amtrak, and one of the things with like Washington, Edison, our locations and given our, that we are magnet schools, so we'll get, a lot of students who are homeless, right? We've had kids come off the train. They come from California. Mm. And it surprises me the number of what we have to do a better job, especially I feel like with the promise itself, is making sure that this community benefits the most. Mm-hmm. Because that's what it was designed for, right?
Right.
So I was asking my nail techs, okay, good friends of mine. They are Vietnamese. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, hey, one day we're just talking, and I said, so why Kalamazoo? Like you were, because for me, like I'm from Saginaw, and I was like, wait, what? Oh, Kalamazoo. Like you could have never told me in a million years that I would live here. Mm-hmm. And so I asked that question. They had come from the East Coast, and he said, my wife told me she was pregnant. And I said, we are moving. And she was like, why? Because we're going to Kalamazoo, Michigan. And she was like, wait, where? And why are we doing that? Mm-hmm. For the Kalamazoo promise. Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of people's story.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's valued by people who either that's been instilled in them, that like that's huge. Mm. I don't understand sometimes why I do and I don't. Mm. Why it's not huge for our community, the Kalamazoo community. Mm. As a whole. You got, people who do value it, right? They're not going to go anywhere. I got two more actually. One will graduate next year. But I wouldn't be, I'm not considering going anywhere until, right? Mm-hmm.
So they can
you don't get that promise.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of people say that, and it's a
game changer.
I've heard different sides too, because I've heard people who said like, oh yeah, my kids are going to this private school, and then like they're like, oh, well, sorry, I actually want to pay for my kids to go to school. I was like, that That's a weird flex. Like,
but I think, for those,
love that for you.
right, love that for you, because that's something for them. Like it gives them some sort of self-fulfillment,
right?
Something that perhaps they didn't have. Like my parents didn't have college funds for me, right? So it was all about the scholarships. It was all about that, and all about the financial aid, and all about, yeah.
Speaking of that, what motivated you to get to where you are now? How you just said, like, the promise and everything. Like, what was instilled in you where you was like, no, I'm going to do it?
I'm going to do what?
What you're doing now, or just like what guided you through your life of just motivating you to keep going?
I would say, again, the calling. Like, there's things that I really can't explain. Of course, I have family values. I watch my parents, work hard to create a certain type of life, right? And at the same time, there were things that I watched that I wish I would have known. But those are things during that time, that in the 70s and 80s, that my parents didn't talk about how much the bills were. It was just daddy came, brought my mama the check. My mama saved her check. Like, I knew that, and sometimes we go shopping and we kept the stuff in the trunk so daddy wouldn't know, right? But
that still happens.
And so there was that, but I didn't know how much their mortgage was and how much this and how much goes to this and how much goes to that. I didn't know those things. And, but what I did know was, I wanted to create a secure life for myself and for my children. And also, I wanted them to know that the sky was the limit, and whatever it is that they want to do, that is in them, because that's something that everyone has to discover on their own. What is in you? Because I do believe everybody has that something, but whether or not that something is nurtured is different. One of the things my parents did was allowed me to. I couldn't do everything I wanted to do. Yet, I was in the debate club, the ecology club, I was supported when I would get phone calls home and, they trying, I'm in trouble because I took over the class. And, and my mom's like, well, was she correct? Well, Lanisha's trying to take over the class, and she's not the teacher. I am the teacher. And, well, was her method correct? Well, yes, it was, but that's not the way I was teaching the class. Well, okay, well, call me when you have a real issue, because that's not a, disciplinary issue. So I don't know what your question was.
What motivated you?
You answered it.
It was
calling.
Yeah, it was your calling.
It was just, it's just what, certain things you can't escape because it's just in you. And so I couldn't escape that part. And then, but I'm going to say the biggest motivator, and I tell my kids this, turn your anger, which starts with hurt, right? Turn that hurt, that anger, and that frustration into motivation. Turn the naysayers and the haters, that's just motivation, right? The people who said, oh, now she's pregnant, she's not going to do, look at her life, she's just thrown it away, and blah, 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 right? The teachers who said I would be nothing because of my mouth, and, I was quick with it, too. Ooh, I'm coming back. I'm a little more polished these days. But there was a lot of naysayers on it. Even in college, I had a professor that said, Lanisha, maybe this isn't the place for you. I won't say exactly what I said back, but it, was kind of like, maybe this isn't the place for you. Let me show you who I am. And it was after like a failing, chemistry, it was advanced chemistry, and, and I'm in there with this belly, and I got this boy right here holding his hand because his school daycare closed or whatever. And this isn't the place for you. You look me up and down. Okay, let me show you who I am. Right. So that's also motivation. Yeah. It's not to bring you down. That stuff should just be like, okay, I got you.
No, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
It's tough hearing that stuff sometimes because, like, I've had a college professor. We were talking about this today. I had a college professor who just said, like, why are you wasting your time? And told me all about myself. I was like, what are you doing here? Like, that was my first reaction. I was like, what are you doing here? Why, if your goal is to help students reach their goals, why are you shooting mine down?
Exactly.
It's crazy. We've all had a story like that. Like, my high school teacher told me he thought I was going to be at Steak and Shake because of my GPA from quarantine. And I was like, he said, bring me your first semester transcripts. And when I showed him that 3-1, he was like, all right. He's like, all right, I'll be quiet. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
It's always that motivation in you.
Right. There was a time where I thought that I could shut people up by just like,
I'm like, is that?
Because that was me too, right? And then I learned, like, okay, let people talk. If they're not talking, you're not relevant. And I think it's, what's her name? Is it Shania Twain or one of those? Sheryl Crow's? Give them something to talk about.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's what you did. That's what you did. You said Steak and Shake. You said, hey, check this out.
Yeah.
Let me give you something to talk about.
Go ahead, sit on that.
Sit on that.
Right. Okay. So if you could do anything to transform Kalamazoo, what would it be?
So one of the things that I always wanted as a child, or as a young person, loving children the way that I do, my goal was to buy Neverland. I was going to buy Neverland Ranch, and all of the children, the orphans and whomever, I was going to take them all, and we're going to have this crew, and and we're going to love the children of the world. We're going to educate them. They all going to be great. They're going to all have this money, If I could do anything for Kalamazoo, number one, every family, particularly families with children, right, would have adequate and affordable housing. And education in whatever areas they need. Because we always try to give people this, and that's not maybe what they need, right? You can't give a person a home and not teach them what to do with it, how to maintain it, how to take care of it. That's a huge loaded question. But that's what I would start with. Every child deserves to go home. And the hardest thing was, one of the hard things about what I do is watching kids who don't want to go home, and that's not just specific to Kalamazoo. Like, that's everywhere.
Right.
How do you want to get on this bus to go back to?
That's tough.
So I would start there. If I could do that, I would do that. I would start with housing. I would say housing, healing. Those would be huge.
Okay.
For me.
Huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what are your favorite things about Kalamazoo?
Start with the bad.
Yeah,
Come in with the good.
Come in with the good. You gotta.
Well, number one, I love the location of Kalamazoo. It is, like, to me, I consider myself very much so a Michigangster, okay? I love Michigan, and I say that because my governor said it too. Okay, she a Michigangster.
With the buffs on.
I didn't even know that's what she said.
Oh yeah, I got the shirts just like everything. We got the blinged out Michigangster mugs. You can get all of that, all those accessories. And it is about being proud of where you're from. Because a lot of times, so-and-so in Texas. Oh, really? Oh, they in California. Oh, New York. Oh, I'm from Michigan. Right there. Okay. But I love just exactly where Kalamazoo sits, because for me, then Saginaw is not far, right? I can go to Saginaw, I can go to Flint, I can go to Detroit, I can go to Chicago, I can go, like, everything, all of my places is driving distance. There's, so I love that. And I love that it is still so very different from all of these other places. It's not Grand Rapids. It is not Detroit. It is not Saginaw. It is not Flint. It's Kalamazoo. Like the nature, the wildlife. Okay, gotta say it. Had never seen a black squirrel till I moved to Kalamazoo.
Man. Everybody keep talking. I still haven't seen one.
They are the toughest. They're in my neighborhood.
They Michigangsters.
They
I heard they stop in front of cars.
My dog will bark at them. They'll look back and squeak. Like, what you want?
What's up? Oh,
yes, Red Fox, Hatton. There's different birds. There's different. I love that. I love the trees. I dabble in the tree business, by the way. Holler at me if you got black walnut trees. I can hook you up.
Okay.
Like it's the culture and the different cultures that make up Kalamazoo. Because it's like sometimes I look at people and I'm like, wait, you're from here? Because Kalamazoo is also a melting pot. There's people from everywhere. Everywhere you can imagine in the world, right here. And I can't say that you see that everywhere, not to this, for it to be medium, a medium, I don't know what it's not large, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, Kalamazoo's great.
It's very unique.
It's very unique. Thank you for summing that up.
You literally have to live here to know.
You literally have to live here to know.
You won't get it.
You won't get it. You won't get it.
Everybody related. First of all, somebody went to school with somebody. Somebody knows somebody. And that's one of the best parts, I feel like.
Yes. Yes.
You're up.
Oh, it's mine? Okay. If the Kalamazoo Promise.
Oh, my bad. It is my turn. All right, my bad. I'm all this up. Okay. If the Kalamazoo Promise was available to you, how would it have changed things for you?
Ooh, it would have been a total game changer. Well, I wouldn't have waited for Big Joe and get rid of those student loans. So, yes, it would have been a total game changer. If it had have been, available for me, there's a lot of things that, just would have been different, right? So, again, graduating high school, my son was 2 years old. So, going to school, right, I had scholarships, academics. I had a full ride to Eastern, yet I have this child. And so, decisions that I had to make sometime, as far as like student loans, people say, well, you didn't need them. You had a full ride. Yeah. However, I'm a mother. I got a household. So sometimes I got to, in student teaching, I did 2 semesters. I really would have liked to have done 3 because early childhood, math and science, right? So I really would have liked to have also focused on special education. That's one of my, pleasures. I like the law. But that's not paid. So, yeah, if I have to choose, okay, I got to take out student loans because rent still have to be paid, and I still got to pay my car note, and I still have to do this, that, and the third. So student loans did that. Daycare. There's things that I had to do, or I had to make decisions to, like not take this many classes because I need to work this amount of time, or whatever the case was. But so that's where my student loans started to come into play. And it just would have changed everything because my scholarships would have taken, this bulk over here. I could have managed, I think, financially differently. So, yeah. And then the amount of time that you get. Certain scholarships, you don't pass this course, or
forgot.
You know, or you drop it,
Yeah.
you know. So some stuff I had to pay for because, man, I really should not have done 15 credit hours. And shoot, this is going to impact this. But, hey, I got to do what I got to do. So.
I understand. My mama said we was raised off student loans. So, like,
yeah.
she said you ate off
Oh,
student loans. She said I love student loans.
I'm telling you. And when I heard people would say, yeah, you know, and I'm trying to pay off my loans, I'm like, why? Like mine, that'll be there.
Take out some more.
That I will take look. My student loans, that should have been the song instead of my money in the grave. No, the student loans to the grave. So, yes. No, we did. Like Christmas, ooh. They didn't miss a beat for Christmas. Student loans. Okay, oh, yep, there's the check. All right.
Little refund check.
Little refund check.
I blew mine
Like
about 2 weeks.
I'm like, Jordan's getting a nice little gaming console.
You want that P5?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
what would be a gold nugget of information you would share with someone who would want to do the same work as you? That's a good one, ain't it? I like that.
I would say, regardless if it's the same work as me or different, trust yourself. Trust yourself. And that would be one thing. Develop some skin. Yeah. Develop skin. And listen more than you speak. Because in listening to people, you get an understanding, especially when it comes to, like you said, the work. 'Cause for me, yes, it's about, you know, reading and writing and math and that. That's secondary to serving the people and the whole child and the well-being. If they're not ready, you know, if a family is in crisis, right, this child is in crisis because this family is in crisis, that parent may come in on 100, and it's in listening that it comes down, that you're able, when they know that you care enough to listen for understanding, they're more willing to be vulnerable, to open up, to, you know, they're going to bring it down then, and they want to partner. And that's how the trust develops and the relationships develop, because it does take people, the village. It takes more than one person, right? So, yeah.
I like that, because that's a tough one for me still, is understanding why someone is reacting
The way that they are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then learning, oh, this person's just, they're in survival mode right now. The only thing that they care about is getting to work, making sure they still have a paycheck and they can pay their bills right now.
Yep.
And I'm over here trying to talk to them about this. And
they're not ready. They're not there.
Yeah.
They don't have the capacity, right? They're not there right now. That's not.
That's the last thing on their mind.
That's the last thing on their mind. You know, don't talk to that mama about homework when she just said that they are sleeping in the garage. So, yeah.
So how could somebody get involved with the work that you're doing right now?
Involved with
Like
which work?
Oh, all of it.
Okay. So, as far as volunteering with, let's start with, I'm going to start with the easiest. The Urban Alliance, you can go to the website, Urban Alliance Kalamazoo. And there are opportunities to donate, volunteer, et cetera, or, you know, stop in. Everyone pretty much knows where Urban Alliance of Kalamazoo is located, on Stockbridge. As far as Kalamazoo Public Schools, again, the website, or you can go to 1220 Howard Street, the administration building, fill out some paperwork, of course, for both. to volunteer. If you want to help out at Washington or just have, some conversation about what we can do to help our children in the community, come and see me. Okay. Washington Writers Academy, 1919 Portage.
Look at that. 10 years. That's what 10 years get you.
10 years was that before it got remodeled or after?
Right after. Okay. So, yeah, the doors opened in
10 years.
It's been longer, actually.
You see this? He feels old right now.
Right. When you look back at it, that's how it goes.
Nah, that's okay. I remember that.
Okay.
So the best way, how can somebody contact you or your organization? Would it be just coming up to the school or
the school,
you? Or?
Email. Yep. Hannah LL, KalamazooPublicSchools.net or LanishaHannah@gmail.com.
Okay. Personal email out there too.
Personal.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any questions for us? This is This is the most nervous part of the interview.
I like it. A little edge to it.
Yeah. So I think I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Number one, I in doing some reading, I saw that you wanted to highlight, right? What made you want to do this work as far as highlighting things that were happening in the community, right? It's one thing to say I want to show people what's going on, but what was the real motivation behind that?
I think deep down it was just as I started this job like almost 3 years ago, was just how many times I was like, man, I wish I knew about this, or I wish my mom knew about this, or I wish my friends had access to this. It was just so many times where I was like, that could have really helped somebody if they knew about it. That's the deep down. I mean, that's number one. Number two is it's my job to do this kind of work. But also there's so much value in it. It's when you see people at a turning point where their life could go one way or another, and all it took was a phone call, an email, something. Their life could have went in a completely different direction. That to me is really important.
Huge. Yeah.
Okay, what's your...
I'm processing that.
Okay.
I'm stuck on that one now. So
yeah.
I don't even remember I don't even remember the other question. Oh, how do you determine who to highlight? Because there's lots of people doing a lot of great things. And so I think in my message back, I was like, oh, wow, I'm so, I'm humbled and right. There's people doing so many amazing things. How do you determine about selecting?
I think it's really by word of mouth. Like, even when Jonathan told me about you, I was like, wait, Washington? I was like, because my brother had told me about you. So I'm like, he had told me who you were. So I'm like, and how good you were. So I'm like, dang, that's perfect. Like, because I've never met you, but he had said such good things. And then Jonathan had you on the list. So I'm like, oh, like now I get to finally meet her. So I think word of mouth is the most important thing. And just everybody grew up here and everybody had the same teachers. So it's like, and it had the same administrators. So it's like when you have people like you that are the principal that you would never say to your face, but they think of you as a second mom or even as a first mom in some scenarios. Like, I think having those kids, like when we have events here and they come, like it's a simple question like, hey, like who was your favorite teacher you ever had, or who? Just that simple question. So I think face-to-face interactions are the best thing for that, personally. So.
Thank you.
Also, I mean, there's people that I've met, I've had meetings with, like collaboration opportunities, and I was like, man, I actually want to sit down and talk to you and actually get to know you better.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about doing a podcast where it's like, hey, I want you, this is an opportunity for you to share whatever it is that is on your mind, has been on your heart. But also it's for more than just me. So I think in the selection process, it's kind of like, okay, who is it that impacts Kalamazoo and has a direct influence on what happens here? And so that's educators, that's nonprofit people. What'd you say? Yeah, even for profit. economic development, that's a big thing too. But it's really who are those people that kind of hold society together, and who wants to share their story. So it's kind of like a wide net, but it's still selective of who should be here. So yeah,
I appreciate it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Like, this is very, it was right on time, very helpful for me in my journey and in things that I, would like to do and have started to work on. So it was just like, wow, like I'm proud to be here. I'm proud of you all in the work that you're doing. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here. Is there anything else that you want to say before we get out of here?
That I didn't say or share or...
anything you didn't say.
Oh, I didn't say that I have 4 children that range from 12, almost 13, to 31. And 2 boys, 2 girls. It was important for me, especially for my... it was important for me, for my sons, especially, to see something different than what, was happening at the time in Saginaw. And things that happen everywhere, don't get me wrong, right? But I needed for them to see different, and for my daughters to see different, that there's more to the world, there's more to life. And so that's one of the things I'm most thankful for, because of course my oldest had already graduated graduated high school when I got here. He was in college, actually. Shout out to Texas College, HBCU. And so he was there, and so coming here, and then now, he moved here. His family's here. My daughter is a graduate of Kalamazoo Central.
Go Giants. Go
Yes,
Giants.
yes, she got her 65%. So she's also a graduate of Western Michigan University.
Nice. Go Broncos.
Yeah, go Eagles. I went to Eastern. No, I was playing. No, love Western. Never thought I would love Western. I love Western as well. I love learning. So, and I have a graduate that will be a graduate of 2025, Kalamazoo Central. Who's going to Michigan State, and Aaliyah, because she was like, "Are you Aaliyah?" I was like, "No, that's my daughter." Yeah, and so and my baby boy who goes to Linden Grove, 8th grader. Grandma called Gigi. Yeah, called Gigi, stands for gangster, Michigan gangster.
Right.
But that's me.
Nice.
That's who I am. And thank you for the work that you're doing and highlighting folk.
Thank you for sharing your
the
story.
Questions.
Yeah.
And the questions.
You as well.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you all. Until part 2.